Well, good evening. I'm your host, Robert Wilson with Cowboy Wisdom Podcast, presenting 7 reasons why my past is gossip. And I'm also introducing the word veracity to you, as veracity is accurate about my life events, encounters, and experiences, and unwilling to tell lies. As I now realize and admit, every lie I tell, I'm lying to me. And so I'm awakened and aware to admit to me my past is ancestor anchored programming that secretly controls me today. Open my liberating energy to grasp. My past is gossip because my past anchors my today's viewpoints, opinions, beliefs, and antiquated mindsets. From ancestor programming, I realize if you really look at the world, just look at it, to simplify the world, we still do a lot of things just the way our ancestors did. You know, we still can't communicate between countries if we don't like what the other one says, or another country is always trying to take another country over. That's just ancestor programming. And that makes us stuck in yesterday. As I'm awakened and aware of the dare to understand and admit, my ancestor programming perpetuates inherited viewpoints, opinions, beliefs, and narratives, shaping the mental framework of my comfort zone subconscious mind as I respond to my daily events, encounters, and experiences through my comfort zone cloning. It just reinforces the patterns, the habits of my thoughts, emotions, subconscious representations, and feelings passed down through generations. These ingrained perspectives and often go unrealized, unchallenged, that influence the way I perceive and interpret my physical world here and now. Tying my beliefs to the echoes of my past that orchestrates today as I ask me why my past is like gossip. Because my past operates through my subconscious frozen in time representations from my subjective retelling the events that were influenced from my ancestor programming. And you know, there's a question I ask myself a lot is, well, how does today mirror yesterday? Because if I'm living through my comfort zone programming, I never want to get beyond that, because everything beyond that is uncomfortable. And you got to be uncomfortable to rise out of your ancestor programming. When I opened up to this, why my subconscious, why my past is gossip, I felt a liberation start at my core chakra and just float up, because history and all of our lives were taught and told to us through the programming of our parents, their parents. And if you really look at the world today, you can really witness the ancestor programming of situations. And I caught myself at this a lot, but it wasn't until about 4 days ago I admitted to me my ancestors still control me today. Because history and the school and everything, yeah, we got the same things, but now we have computerized memories, but that never goes in to where your comfort zone is. And really, how does computers actually control your life, and you never really get beyond what the computer tells? How we become ancestor program and computer program at the same time. Yeah, no, the something I really realized about when people were coming across the country from St. Louis to the west is they had to be very, very astute to all their surroundings because they had to be awakened and aware of all the events, encounters, and everything that occurs between St. Louis and the Pacific Ocean. But however, there was no computers to tell them. And this is something that fascinates me. How they brought them wagon trains across the Rocky Mountains, the Tetons, and all the mountain passes. It's quite interesting when you realize they didn't have cranes. I didn't want to be involved, but I'd like to witness how they did it. But I know they did a lot of it with block and tackle. And you had to have the innovative wherewithal to do it. It took a lot of courage to come from St. Louis to the west, whether it's Seattle, Los Angeles, Phoenix, Arizona, or any place, because you had to be awakened and aware of all the dares. So today, how have we stopped being awakened and aware of all the dares for us to expand? We just let a computer or somebody else tell us, because my past is gossip, and I never really challenge myself to rise, because to rise out of ancestor programming, you got to challenge your beliefs. And how many of us are afraid to challenge our beliefs, viewpoints, and opinions? Oh, hell yeah. Oh, not me, by God, I can do it. Well, I do it. But did I say I like it? After it's over, yes. But going through it, not so much. But here's something about it. People of the world have to open up to realize they encompass the transcending talent to expand and rise out of everything with questions and listening. See, that's something we stopped doing. And, well, I don't think I ever did until 2 years ago, is listen. Listen is the bliss of life. It boldly lionizes internal sovereign savvy every day because it's unattached to the situation. See, a thinking, knowing mind is attached to everything that goes on in your life. As your innovation, and that way, when you start thinking and knowing and your knowledge, it all has a limitation. You know, you got to go across the river, but thinking, knowing, and knowledge and what you've learned stops right in the deepest part of the river. That's where your intuition, imagination, innovation, and that rises you to float on top of them river currents just so smoothly. And when you really get into it, you use the river currents to go where you desire. And see, that's what we have stopped doing because we want it now. Who wants it now without any challenges? Oh, pick me. Hell yes. But that's not the truth. That's a fallacy. But the more I open up to listen, to understand, the chaos is my celebration. Challenges are my liberation. Controversy and adversity are my awakenings. To rise out of my moldy old ways of life. And that's something I really started to understand. My ancestor programming is the foundation of my viewpoints, beliefs, opinions, and it's also the foundation of the school system. How do we do things and stay the same? Because our opinions, everything's shaped from the imprint of our past experiences, acting as our mental frameworks and built. And we learn from them patterns and narratives. So that's the way we stay inside the control of that. Something I really awakened to is one thing about your subconscious comfort zone. It's a familiar zone on reflecting on once what was rather than what you desire it to be, because we're afraid of what it may expand into because we have no representations for that. And the subconscious mind likes representations. And once you get to them representations and beyonds, you start operating from your inherited belief systems, generational traditions, inherited ideologies, because we never questioned what was going on or where we wanted to go. We always are perpetuating outdated ways of thinking, knowing, and constrained and locked and blocked me inside my ancestor programming, even though I thought, well, the ancestors, they've been gone for years. Physically, subconsciously, and energetically, they're here now. So if you really get down and you start looking at the world, how much have we expanded out of our ancestors' way of life? We still can't communicate between countries. We still have human trafficking. We still have all the same stuff. And people are still governing from the same way our ancestors did. Our ancestor programming still controls the way the politics of the world works. And that's something I really opened up to the instant I asked myself, why is my past gossip? Because all the history books, everything is gossip. Because there's zero absolutes. Because if I wanted to control the world, I'd educate them in the history, through the history of I wanted them to know, so I can control them through education. Education is actually a limitation. Your innovation and talents will rise you above everything. And you know, we got all the billionaires and all this in the world today, but they still live inside the ancestor programming of this and this. And you know, even computers are here, but they've turned into, they make a lot of money. But is anybody liberated from the way our parents, our ancestor, anybody experienced life? Yeah, we got a lot of conveniences today. Yet, do we have any liberating innovations? You know, the inherited narratives that are inside us echoes and disables the veracity of here and now because they carry the past perceptions, disconnecting present nowalities. I use nowality instead of realities because reality comes from your viewpoints, opinions, and beliefs. Nowality is here and now peace. Reality has nothing to do with here and now. And that comes from your thinking, knowing, memory, mind, and your subconscious representations from the past. As gossip thrives on repetition, ancestral conditioning repeats stories from our past without questioning their validity. Does that sound familiar in your life? Oh, hell yes, in mine. That statement right there awakened me to understand my here and now presents me with fresh foresight. Ignites my light of life, but as I now realize, we are taught in history to never question history. The more I waken up, the more I awaken to history, understanding history is written by people that want to control the world. So as we was going to school, I was taught history, and that was the absolute, the way things happened, occurred back in, well, whenever. It was all fake and baked BS because history was taught to us by what the people that controlled the world wanted us to understand and know and live inside. Because history is written through somebody else's beliefs, opinions, and viewpoints and the way the powers to be want history written to control the minds of people, making history today. Our ancestor program opened this question to me. How is history made up stories for unrealized control? So I now realize and admit my past has zero validity and a lot of made up stories that feed my egotistical arrogance and know-it-all ignorance, trying to keep me the same as my way is the only way, is a bunch of dismay. Well, it's really Burpambia. As I awaken to my now-reality sovereignty that dissolves my inherited assumptions, as I am elevated to my here and now, cognizant innovations causing old narratives to lose the power and any stranglehold on my life. Because when I open up to the here and now, I now naturally optimize wonder's curiosity. Because ancestral programs were survival tools. And how do we still try to use them survival tools today? Oh, because remember when COVID first hit, everybody run and clean the stores out? Then a month later, everybody was trying to take everything back. See, survival mode thinking is makes panic fanatics go in high gear. As I disconnected from the ultimate truths and unrealized strategies, realizing that the strategies of my ancestral programming were never destiny. As evolution renders old identities irrelevant growth and disconnects me from outdated interpretations. Because as my ancestral programming are stories passed down, are projections with zero reflections on the here and now. They speak more about the past fears and present wisdom. And something else I really opened up to: self-help, personal growth, self-improvement, therapy written books talk more about fear and the past than they do present moment wisdom. There'll be a podcast on that next week. As my voice overrides inherited scripts, I choose whether ancestral echoes become wisdom or limitations. And see, that's our choice. When we was going through it, we had the experience, but did we appreciate the wisdom, or did we step down and stay stuck in the lying limitations from the ingrained interpretations? Gossip is fueled by collective memory. That's something I really realized. Our thinking, knowing, memory minds are always binded in some kind of outside programming, whether it's ancestral, somebody. So when somebody says I have a program, I scram. I never, ever listen to somebody else's program. Now I'll listen to the wisdom, but there's words in the writings, and I don't punctuate my writings. I unpunctuated them for the wisdom I receive. And gossip is fueled by collective memory that disconnected my individual here and now veracity. What was once spoken never defines your here and now veracity. Liberation begins where attachment to the past ends. Not change. Liberation begins where attachment to the past ends. So choosing to embrace the present moment with a moral moxie dissolves generational weight of history. Ancestral voices are reference points, zero commandments. They offer lessons, but your choices shape your path. And see, that's something about sovereign liberation and all that. It opens your paths of enlightenment, strolling you up the trails of triumph, chauffeurs you effortlessly down to your beaches of bountiful bliss. And here's the thing about the ancestors' programming. That's their narrative. But that was theirs. Their narrative, never your story. You are the author, never the inheritor of their stories. You are the author of your nowography, and that's what's here and now. As sovereignty disrupts generational cycles, where you own your autonomous expansion, eliminating old scripts that instantly become obsolete. When you start listening to the here and now, questioning the here and now, and start expressing your imaged inspiration, all your stuff becomes obsolete. Beliefs begin as inherited patterns. And how many of your beliefs have ancestral programming in them? Mine do. But see, the thing about saying that, and I understand that, if I admit that to me, I'm free. But if I keep trying to strangle and keep an attachment to it, I stay stuck in that. So today, I let go and passed away all my unquestioned truth. As my liberating lingo frames nowality, the words and narratives used by ancestors and parents set the foundation for how we interpret the world. And if you really open up to that, I have a class called Liberating Lingo. I rose out of using change, heal, create, transformation, think, know, learn, forgiveness, because they kept my subconscious mind frozen in ancestor programming, and opened up to my liberating lingo that is loyal to me. The words you use are to be loyal to you, not to me, not to be anybody else. And in my past events, encounters, and experiences of my comfort zone, they were loyal to my ancestors and outside sources, and never to me. As my subconscious loyalty internalized my liberating lingo, lionized intuitive now galvanizes optimism, as I stopped maintaining the programming of my ancestors' viewpoints to uphold a sense of internal belonging to my here and now and continuity. As I'm awakened and aware of the dare of my liberating lingo, I let go internally, naturally galvanizing optimism. As my here and now wisdom flows from my conscious refinement, as liberation begins when I challenge inherited programming and innovate my own sovereign perspectives. My liberating lingo dissolves inherited scripts, as I'm never bound by past conditioning, as I am the author of my liberating rhymes of a prime time trend-setting imagination, mystically expanding today with a heavenly heyday and a promised land delight. As I am the author of my nowography. Nowography is everything that's right here. I express that. And it dissolves limitation and ancestral experiences and awakens my trailblazer insight and inspiration that fuels innovation, stepping onto my liminal carpet glide that dissolves generational constraints. As my conscious evolution disrupts unconscious patterns. I rise when I choose awareness over repetition. Programming is repetition. Awareness is here and now, flow of foresight, lionizing optimistic wisdom to flow through my veins of fame. Sovereignty severs attachment to outdated, worn out beliefs, opinions, and viewpoints. And innovation replaces inherited survival tactics. Thriving requires here and now innovation, dissolving and throwing away outdated fears. And my inner clarity overrides external programming. That's the thing. Everything is in here. If you have internal clarity, you override external programming, and it rises you to your liminal carpet glide and your beaches of bountiful bliss. Expression dismantles suppression. Speaking your inspiration is your authentic voice that dissolves imposed silence of yesterday's sabotage. And innovation is your adventurous acumen to move beyond inherited constraints. Present moment mystical energy negates the historical weight of ancestor programming, and it entertains your brain to open up to ordain your animated acumen. And as you let go of your ancestral programming, your enterprising evolution energizes your ubiquitous wisdom for me and you to rise, shine, and energize and expand through our desired way of life. And I want to thank you for being here. As you rise out of as soon as I understood my past was gossip, I felt a free-flowing liberation, and it just was a calming sensation through my body. And I want to thank you all for being here, and I'll see you tomorrow night with management arrogance. Good night, and enjoy your evening.